Welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen. It's really two programs in one. This is a series that appeals to your creative side, food that is sumptuous stuff. How could that be? This is a program about people who want to eat healthy and reduce calories. Actually, it's about food with an aromatic quality that fills the nose. Oh, sure, but it's also about keeping my arteries clean by reducing fat. But it doesn't mean a thing if the food isn't rich and colorful. Maximize the flavor. Okay, but I must have healthy food that I can cook in minutes. I must minimize the risk. So welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen, where we get our heads together just for you. Well, and you're very welcome once again, especially for this program. I know I keep on saying especially for this program. This is really rather a special one because, you see, this is where it all began. Something has to start somewhere. And we got a letter from this lady here. Let me introduce you to her first of all, and then you'll really get the idea. Ronnie Beanstalk, okay? Now, Ronnie Beanstalk, she's married, she has 2 sons. She's the office manager for a cardiologist. Now, she grew up in a Jewish family which had lots of fat and lots of love. You know, and the two, when you put the two together, are quite special. In her office, and this is what I really want to tell you about this. In her office, she sees people who are 50, 60, and 70 years of age who come in, who have, you know, obviously work for a cardiologist, have some heart problems. And she told me, she said, she wrote this in the letter, she said, you've no idea how difficult it is for me to see these people because, you know, really they've got habits which are so hard to change. And I know that. That's why we do this program. And you see, what she has told me, what she said, she said, look, I did your Arnold Bennett omelette. So I wrote it into the checklist. And the Arnold Bennett omelette was really a souffle omelette with smoked fish and cheese on it that we cleaned up a bit. And she loved it. She did it in her own way. She said, I'm springboarding, and I want to tell you, I'm going to put the ingredients that I love. Then she said, hey, I got fruit because I love fruit. And over here she says she likes peaches, plums, and nectarines. Okay, so we took that, and she said, I made it with that as a brunch idea, and it was wonderful, but really a bit soggy. So we were sharing backwards and forwards. Her love for food, which was translated here, my love for food, which is trying to help people to change habits. And lo and behold, suddenly the light bulb went on in my head and said, why don't you do a whole series of this? And so we sent out individual food preference sheets. In the new book, we've got it in the new book so that you'll be able to fill them in yourself. And all you need to do is take the little techniques, which we show you every week, and put those together with the foods that you love and come up with something special. So we've done this together and we've really redesigned that slushy omelette, Ronnie, and made it into a marvelous thing. I'm glad you liked it. Come along, I'll show you how it's done. Good. Well, now the basic idea here is a souffle omelette with many less egg yolks, at least 50% less than before. So let's have a see how this actually works. And then you can imagine your own creation, you know, amongst these ideas. Fine. In a good omelette for 4 people, there could be 4 egg yolks. There could be 6. There could be 8. I mean, I've been known to do it. And what we want to do here is to try and, I wanted to make it dramatic. There we go. 50% reduction is to get 2 egg yolks off there. So we're going to reduce it by 2 egg yolks. Now, imagine then if you take 2 egg yolks and drop those into all that amount of egg white. Why? You could... Where have you gone? It's disappeared. There's almost nothing left. All right. And it doesn't work very well. When you eat it, it's like sinking your teeth into a cloud. So what you do is you reinforce the flavor of the yolks. And you can do that with in a savory omelette with a little lemon zest or dill or parsley. and of course copious amounts of black pepper, or white pepper if you like it better, because it's going to obviously won't show up as much, little fresh sea salt. So that is just simple ideas. A little cayenne pepper can go in there to give it a bit of a bite too. Now, what about a sweet omelette? Now, brown sugar, nutmeg you can add, grate some nutmeg into it. You could get some of the seeds out of a fresh vanilla pod and put it in and vanillarize it. This is a crystallized ginger knob. You can chop that up and put that in it as well. That's delicious, by the way. And these are cardamom seeds. That's my best pick for actually putting guts into what otherwise would be a pallid, insipid kind of thing. Now, so we're going to strengthen that in this particular episode. Okay, so we'll see what ingredients we can put together so that we don't get a slushy one. Here it is on the menu.
Today on Graham Kerr's Kitchen, Fruit Omelet, a dried cranberry almond souffle omelet with an orange yogurt sauce.
Okay, Ronnie, very little fat and lots of love. Okay, isn't that great? That's a turnaround. Okay, now, here is the egg. Now, the first thing, if you're going to attempt one of these little souffle omelette things, don't be too massive, by the way, with a knife, otherwise you'll wind up with fingers all over the counter. And, oh, I've got to show you this. This, I've got to get this right so that it, and look, see, a smiley face. You can always see it. Look for these things because they're really very useful. This is an egg strainer. And I'm laughing about this because I missed it once before. And just put it down there like that. And what happens is, and all eggs, by the way, when you're going to strain them like this, all eggs should be at room temperature. If you take them straight from the fridge, they really won't do it too well. And you should have, you should pound it up and down like that and say, whoa, this isn't separating properly. That means it is a very fresh egg. This one, thank you, madam. Good, so get it completely separated and then pop the yolk in with that one. So we're going to use 2 yolks instead of 4, and put the whites on one side, and of course you're going to use those to be able to whip up. All right, now, how to strengthen this particular dish? Well, first of all, here are the ingredients. Got them all set up. I'm going to put just a touch of arrowroot into there. Now, you could use cornstarch as well, but we tried it with arrowroot. And that's just to get a little bit of viscosity going with it. Now, these are the cardamom, but not as seeds, but as ground. You can get cardamom ground or in seed form. So there's just half a teaspoonful of that, half a teaspoonful of each. And now a couple of tablespoonsful of soft brown sugar, all right? Drop that in. Now, this needs to be mashed up with an egg substitute. Now, this is using egg substitute, which is a bit odd, and you might not have ever used it, but you use just 2 ounces per egg yolk that you threw away. All right, good. So there's 4 ounces of there because you threw 2 eggs out of this. And now mess it all up. Now, you see the way that this is coming. The cardamom seed will actually distribute itself in that whole dish. And what you've got, if you were to eat this now, which wouldn't be such a good idea because it would be raw, but like a sort of a highly spiced eggnog, if you did that now, you would have a tremendous amount of flavor in your mouth. I mean, really, it would just fill your mouth full of flavor. And that's what I wanted to do, to enforce that basic thing, so that the egg doesn't become all fluffy egg white. Good, okay. The next thing to do is to go to a store and look for the dried fruit packages. Now, they're in boxes or they're in plastic bags like this one. And look for a mixed array. In this case, they've got pears there and prunes and apple and apricot. All right. Now, with these have had sulfite put on them. And a sulfite can, if you've got one of those kind of systems and you're allergic to things, say, I don't know whether you've ever had asthma, for example, you need to watch out. You'll find that on the label, it says that sulfur dioxide has been added, or they could say just sulfites have been added. And that keeps everything looking bright and lovely. And if you've ever had any allergy problems or talk to your physician about that one, then a good idea would be to go to, one of those food co-op stores or a health food store, and they've got the same fruit exactly, tastes pretty good. I mean, really does. It just doesn't look so pretty. It looks all brown, rather like the prunes do. Right? So you can use that instead. All right. To that, then, those are just, individual pieces. What I want to get is 1/3 of a cup altogether. And 1/3 of a cup of the fruit. That's about 1/3 of a cup. And then here, 2 tablespoons full of dried cranberries. And those have a wonderful chewy texture to them, and they go very well in this. All right, so there's the fruit set on one side. That's going to be the filling. Now we have a look at the egg white itself. Now, there's a trick to egg white, which is rather interesting. What you do with the egg white is just pop that down, and then this is called cream of tartar in this little teaspoon here. And cream of tartar is a residue which is an acid which comes off when you make wine, and it's part of the residue. So we just simply pop that down into the top. Now, it isn't sort of nasty acid, it's nice acid. This is all alkali, and so it's adding a little bit of acidity to that. Oh, let me get this beating, and then I'll tell you what it does. All right. Good. All right, air is being beaten into that at the present moment, and that cream of tartar is mixing it. What does it do? It doesn't give you more volume, but there are little bubbles being created out of it. Air is beating into the bubble. The cream of tartar makes sure that the bubble doesn't fracture and leak. And it means that you can overbeat it, whereas normally if you overbeat it, it would clump together and break down. And you know what, when you get egg white and it's all leaky at the bottom, that's what's happening. This stops that from happening. Now, how do you know how long to whip it? This is, I've read hundreds of recipe books, and you never can be quite sure how to be able to explain it in a recipe to you. Now, at this stage, if I was to turn that over like that, it holds, but there's something about the bubbles that says to me that's not quite right yet. I need to run it just a little bit longer. Just a bit longer. Okay, now. Good. Now, do you see the little striations on the top here? Can you see that? When it starts to show those, that's the time that you know that you've got it just about done. It holds onto the back of the spoon nicely, peaks well, that's perfect. It really is just great. Now look, the other test that you can apply to this one is just turn it upside down. Now, it should turn upside down, and you should just do this with it, and it doesn't leave the spoon, okay? Phew. All right, now, leave it in there. Don't take it out yet, because right at the last moment when you're ready to fold it in, then just give it an extra little spurt. Okay, check the pan. Make sure the pan is on just medium-high, not super high, otherwise you'll scorch it. And I've got some little things going on here. And I also want to have the broiler on and good and radiant. You'll see why in just a sec. Good. Oh, it gets exciting now. I love doing this. This is a sauce, and the sauce is made with 1/2 cup of fresh orange juice and 1/4 cup of water, just because it seemed to be a bit acidic. So I just wanted to add that down, so you get about 3/4 cup of liquid altogether. And pop that in now. Now, with some cornstarch now, because we're going to add this to yogurt, and you know, if you add arrowroot to yogurt, it doesn't work too well. Okay, in here I have got 2 tablespoons full of cornstarch and 4 tablespoons full of the cornstarch. Okay. I'm going to get one of these little pieces of equipment one day which doesn't splash all over the top. I keep on threatening this. I've got a great design for one, and they told me that would be $22,000 to make the mold for it. Guess what? I'm still stirring it up in a little basin. All right. Now, you've got this hot, and you remove it from the side of the pan. There's very little liquid there and a lot of thickening. And you'll see the reason for that in just a little while. So, because it's cornstarch, it doesn't thicken instantly like arrowroot does, and it needs to come up to the boil. But if you just left it on there and didn't stir it to the boil, it would form lumps like you have no idea. So we can just stir it well and truly, and then watch that out of the corner of my eye as that starts to thicken. It just looks a bit like a custard by the time you've done it. Great. Okay, well, we're just about ready to sort of get cracking, and your guests are all ready, and they say, when are we going to have the dessert? Just a moment, you say. Any second now. So you just run this just a little bit more, just to whip up any loose little bits of the egg white which have dropped to the bottom. Stop that, and just lift that up. Perfect egg whites. Now, whenever you add egg whites to a thickened base like this, just take 1 dollop of the egg white first of all, and just mix that together. That lightens up the base part of it, and this you never want to work it as much as this, but it lightens up the base and starts it off. Now you can put it into the other one, just tip it back into the other, just like that, run it all the way around so that you've got all of that out. I've been told, by the way, that, oh, here we go. Just out of the corner of my eye, little whipping here, and maybe just a touch of water, just trifle thick. All right, and just that's settled down, that's fine. Now take that off the stove now, you want it to cool down a bit. All right, now back to here again, and just stir this around until it looks pale yellow. Don't over mix it. Just stir it around. Make sure that you've got it combined, but don't over mix it, otherwise you knock all the stuffing out of it. Butter. In the recipe, I've allowed for a full tablespoonful of butter. Never, never, for anything else would you ever see anything like that. The reason is the perfume of the butter comes up into the omelette. Wonderful, the frothiness is all over the bottom there, and it's also a good telltale because it should go slightly brown, and that's the perfect temperature at which to toss in everything in this souffle omelette. Once you master a souffle omelette, you are going to be so thrilled with it because you can do so many different things. May I suggest you get a flat whip like this one, and then whip it all in together. You're mixing the butter up into that pan. And then, hopefully, you've got a good solid stove. You just bang it down like that to get any airlocks out of it. And then get the fruit. Now, you're working fairly fast now, but without panic in your voice, just sort of coolly distributing your fruit over the top. And then with that very self-same spatula or whisk, just dump them down. Goodbye. Just lower the fruit down into the bottom like that, and they're all disappeared. Right. With a spatula, run that around the outside and just detach it from, well, sort of detach it. You'll see how it works in a moment. Thank you, don't waste the power. And about this stage, and all I can tell you is shake it a little, and if it jiggles like you do first, you know, in the season and want to get it off a little bit, that's about the time. And also smell it, just to see whether there's any caramelized sugar content, you know. What happens, that's under the broiler, by the way, now. What happens is that the sugars in it start to brown on the bottom, and sometimes you can pick up a little whiff of the slightly browning sugar that comes from it. Okay, now we just put it underneath there and just let that brown, and got to keep my eye on that as well. Keep your eye on everything. Over here, I've got 1/4 cup of yogurt, all right? And that's the strained yogurt. And I'm simply going to take some of this sauce here. This is the orange sauce that we made. And just beat that into that yogurt. It really doesn't take much at all. If you try and put the yogurt into the hot sauce, the chances are you could curdle it, and that would be a terrible mistake. Look, see, that's a beautiful looking custard, isn't it? And really simple to make. All right, so that's on one side. Now we'll look back in. Oh, look at that, perfectly brown, gorgeous looking thing. Are you brown enough? Brown enough, come on. Right, so that should take about 2 minutes under a good broiler. And let's have a look and see what that looks like. Oh, no, just if the surface is like the moon. Just shake it a little bit like this. Make sure that it's nice and free. And then well, you don't have to put it on an older plank. That's a bit of a fetish. But put it on a nice plate, all right? And just ease it out of the, of the pan there, and then just pour the sauce over the top there. Just keep pouring it, that orange and yogurt sauce. It'll drizzle all the way out. And what you do then is you just simply take a serrated knife, okay? And serrated knives are a good idea because they cut beautifully. And then cut it like that. Now, cut it in quarters, makes a nice large portion. And you can present it just as a whole thing, if you like. Lift it up. Look at that. Just look at that. Whoa! And then just a few scattering of almonds on the top, just a little bit of the red, and just a touch more of that cardamom. Want to know how it tastes? Come through, I'll show you. I think really it should be presented, you know, as one whole piece. It just looks so nice. All right. Now, I'm going to compare this one this time. This is a classic, and this is one of mine. This is the old Galloping Days, and thank you very much. That was nicely served. So we'll compare the two together and see just exactly how they come out. This is comparing me with me. 514 calories for dessert, Graham? Really? 217 now. That's a little better. Fat, 31 grams. How about 7? 17 grams of saturated fat. That's what you were like in those days. Calories from fat, 53%, when 30% for a whole day is about right for a healthy person. So let's get that down to 28%. And cholesterol, 380. That's 80 more than the maximum for a whole day. 114, shouldn't laugh at myself. Sodium, 166 is down to 119, which is good. And carbohydrate is 36. Okay? And now that's what it looks like on the numbers, and then what it tastes like. This is a sensational taste. It is so soft, and yet, at the same time, with that sauce and the fruit, it is absolutely delicious. And if you've never tasted cardamom before, it has the most wonderful perfuming background to it. And with the dried fruit and the cranberries just biting enough, there's no slush there, is there, Ronnie? You know? So that really worked well. So remember, the whole idea behind this one is look at things like I did them today, and just the concept of like the souffle, and then pile your own loving food into it for the people that you love. Okay? All right, that's called springboarding, okay? Right, now for the extra meal. Now, the extra meal this time is different than most because you don't do anything ahead of time. There's nothing to do ahead of time in that recipe. So I thought I'd give you something really quick. In the pan here at the present moment, I've got some portobello mushrooms, and they've had a very little, about a teaspoonful of butter, and sauteed in there together. Just a teaspoonful of fresh dill is just scattered over the top. Amazing what that does. And then 2 cupfuls of the very self-same alternative eggs, if you will, or egg substitutes. And those are just, you just heat the pan up and just mix them around once, just to be able to break it all up and get it off the bottom of the pan. Just shake it once. This is so quick. Then just a little dash of grated Parmesan over the top, just a scattering over the surface. Now, over here, I've got some spinach, which has only taken, 2-3 minutes to be able to come up to the boil, or to the steam. And this is the portobello mushroom. If you might have seen these nowadays, these are now just coming on the market. They are huge. When you cut them in nice, thick slices across, it is the most wonderful, woodsy tasting mushroom, and strongly recommend that to you. Okay, now, see how this is set up now? The really big thing about this is don't keep on stirring egg substitute. If you do, it'll break down and weep, and I mean, you know, it won't get emotional, but I mean, it will. It'll get weepy and it won't work properly. See how that comes now? Very gently scoop that into the center. It's looking wonderful. Now, what you do is then you just take hold of the hot steaming spinach and distribute that all over the top, rather like a frittata. Just skewer it all over the top. It'll just mix in with the rest of the mix there. And then take a little extra, about another tablespoonful of cheese over the top. And literally, as it sets up, that's all the time that it takes. It is ready. I mean, that's pretty neat stuff. You can take just a small portion of this. I wonder if I've got enough time to take just a portion of that, just to the table. And it is so quick and easy and neat and fresh and delicious. And those mushrooms are just a knockout. Oh, wonderful. Try it. A little bit of nutmeg on it. Okay? God bless.